Another win! A mere 4 months after the last one. Get in. We looked okay for the first 30 minutes, but it was all foreplay, no finish. Then, right on cue, the wheels didn't just come off, the whole car exploded. Solanke off, and suddenly it was just 11 blokes in the same kit running about. It got worse, of course. Xavi, ACL, what a surprise, and what a blow for player, club and country. Why is Gary of Harlow blaming the medical staff for all our injuries? Have the doctors been out there digging treacherous holes or sneakily detaching players' ligaments during massages? Polinia was the hero, somehow managing to divert Richie's scuffed corner flag special into the net. And while we all waited for VAR to rule it out, I began to wonder whether our second top scorer, with 4, should be playing up top. Because RDZ seems determined to unlock Muani's alleged talent, which is admirable, I suppose, but also the hill we might all die on. Meanwhile, Tel came on, did more in 10 minutes, etc., won the crucial corner, looked alive. Play the kid, Roberto. It's not complicated. The Kinsky redemption arc is a beautiful thing, from the Madrid horror show to prime Buffon at the death. He's just so much, better than Flappy. We'll have a bit of Room 101, some daft tweets and sundry nonsense. And of course, we'll chat about the weekend visit to Villa. Strap in. It's nice one, Cyril.
Nice one, Cyril.
So, welcome to Nice One, Cyril. I'm Simon Lipson, whose Pat Nevin impression on last week's show was so convincing. Mrs. Nevin rang me afterwards to ask what I fancied for dinner. Julie Welch is here, bringing calm reflection seasoned with irrational hatred. Kev Acott's here too. He came over to mine for the second half on Saturday and showed real character by watching to the bitter end, while I took my tension into the garden, where I questioned my life choices. And making his debut, Stephen Pollard, journalist, elite Spurs kvetcher, and fellow cat lover, so a man of taste and substance. So welcome all. We've got lots of things to talk about. Before we get into the specifics, Stephen, welcome to Nice One, Cyril. What did you make of the performance overall?
First of all, thank you very much for having me. It's lovely to be here. I think you summed it up very well. I watched it on a dodgy stream, and I think all along this season, well, the last few months, all we've thought is, I don't care about the performance, just need the points. We just need the points. One win is going to change everything. Once they get the win, and they've already got the win, I'm not so sure. I mean, I don't think one win's going to make any difference at all, frankly, now. Because they're going to, if they carry on playing like that, there's no way we're going to get the necessary points. I 100% agree with you about Tel. I spent Tel's first few months at the club thinking, what on earth have we bought this or loaned this guy for? And then when we bought it, I just thought he was, there was nothing there. And I realized I couldn't have been more wrong. I think he's the only one of the very few who seems to genuinely care and makes a real effort every time he comes on. And Tudor, you could never understand half of what he did. De Zerbi knows what he's up to. He's not an idiot. But I don't understand why Tel doesn't start. Well, I just don't get it, because it's not as if, when he's come on, he's looked average. When he's come on, he's always looked our best player, basically. So I don't get it. And I assume now that Xavi's out, he will start, because I don't think there'll be much choice, unless he, who knows what he chooses to do next. But I thought you summed it up very well. I mean, the problem is, it's that Ange quote, isn't it? Every time there's light at the end of the tunnel, it turns out to be an oncoming train, because, there we are, we get the points, and now 2 of our most important players are out for the rest of the season.
Kev, talking about Tel, I totally agree with Stephen there. When he first arrived and for the first few months, he just looked hopeless. And I think we said several times on the pod, he just hasn't got it. And then suddenly he seemed to grow, and he doesn't seem remotely cowed by the position we find ourselves in. He comes on, he plays his game, and he seems like one of the few bright sparks. And given where we are attacking talent-wise, and we're even more diminished now, he simply has to be a first pick, doesn't he?
He does. I mean, it's odd because I agree with Stephen. De Zerbi is not an idiot. He clearly, I think, I still have a lot of faith in him. Wherever we end up in a few games' time, why? I don't know why start with Muani. I couldn't work that one out. You know, it seemed to be a decision based on just hope or the past. Muani obviously isn't a terrible player, but he's been a terrible player for us, and you just can't see him changing, really. I think absolutely Tel should start, particularly now, because as you say, we've got nothing really left creatively. We need someone like him who can just do the occasional thing that might just turn a game.
And I suppose the issue might be, if he gets past his man, which he does frequently, who the fuck is he going to cross it to? It just seems to me, Julie, your mate Richie, I don't know, he's labouring, doesn't look at it. Solanke now, it seems he's out for however many games, we don't know, probably for the season. Who's going to score the goals? Because we've got to win a game. Somewhere along the way, whatever West Ham do, we've got to win a game. How are we going to do it?
I have no idea. I just want to say, I want to be smug because while you were moaning about Tel, I would like to point out that right from the beginning, I've been saying Tel's actually a good thing. When he first arrived, he looked willing and he wanted to help and he was really keen. And he wasn't the most effective of players, but I've never thought of Tel as being a bad buy. Nobody ever listens to me, but I just want it to be registered that I've always said that Tel was a good thing. Now on to Richie. Say what you like about Richie. I mean, he's usually in the mix somewhere, pretty hopeless, but what he did the other day, it was quite important, wasn't it, really? You know, that sort of scuff kick that led to the goal. We've got to keep him because we have got absolutely no one.
We've lost Xavi now for probably forever. We've lost Maddison. I don't think there's any chance. He's cheerleading, but I don't think we're going to see him. Our midfielders are competent. We've got Bissouma and Bentancur, I think, as a partnership look pretty good. They're the partnership that played in the Europa League final and both of these semi-final matches against Bodo. Do you think that there's any chance that De Zerbi, in recognition of this dearth of flair, is going to somehow use Ange tactics and, batten down the hatches as best we possibly can and try and get a goal from a long throw or on the break? Because I don't know how we play progressive flair football with such a lack of flair players and forwards.
Before he came, most of the comments were, he's given his philosophy and the way he plays football, how is he going to adapt? And it's not going to he can't do it in, 6 games as he had when he joined. But he does seem, it's not like we've been playing De Zerbi football. We've barely been playing anybody's football. The Brighton performance was okay. I think people have been eulogising it a bit. It's only because we've been so diabolical that the fact that we were half decent meant that it was all right. But if the performance against Brighton was the best we're capable of, then we really are deserving of relegation. The other thing is there's a player on the bench who, throughout our dire straits, was genuinely outstanding, which is Gray. And, he's now been relegated to the bench. I assumed he was dropped the first time just because he was knackered. But now that he's been rested twice, I'm not so sure. Maybe De Zerbi doesn't actually like that much of the look of him. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. But then nothing that Spurs or any of our managers do has made sense to me since Keith Birkinshaw left, basically.
It seems to me anyway that De Zerbi is trusting experience over the Berravals and the Greys and letting them pop on, with some energy towards the end.
I think Richarlison should play. We can all criticise him, and rightly so, for so many things. But fact is, he knows how to scrap in a relegation fight. He knows how to scrap anyway. And he does get goals. Even when he's playing rubbish, the goals just do sometimes come. And I think that's what we need.
You mentioned Brighton there, Stephen, and it did feel, everyone was getting very excited about that Brighton performance. And but for wretched luck, we would have had our 3 points and we'd be out of that zone. I just wonder, performance-wise, it was a backward step against Wolves. Results-wise, it was a definite, forward step. So I don't know. Do you think it's the case really now that performance is irrelevant and results are everything? Or are the two inextricably connected?
That's what I'm thinking. The two are connected. It just depends on how he sets us up and how he sends them out there. He can't play his usual football. I just worry about that idea of just hanging back and hoping for goals on the break, because we've never been able to do that, have we? Probably since Keith Birkinshaw, we've never been able to do that. But he can't go all out and attack. We can't do anything particularly sophisticated either. So I think we need as solid a back four as possible. Probably Basuma and Bentancur in the middle, Tel, Richarlison. I think I agree, Gray and or Berraval as well could make a difference in midfield.
There is an interesting fact, which is that, if we'd drawn at Wolves and West Ham had lost, we'd be better off now than having won, because obviously West Ham won as well. So we're no better off than we were before. So it is, the idea of everything must be focused on this or focused on that. Actually, everything's focused on what happens elsewhere. That makes, which is obviously completely out of our hands.
Steve makes a good point, Julie, that we're out of our hands, and therefore, if West Ham win all of their remaining games, that's it. Good night. We're out. We're not going to catch Forest, I don't think. Although what are we, a couple of points behind them now? Although they've got a game in hand. West Ham aren't going to win their remaining matches, right? They've got Arsenal, they've got Brentford. I can't remember the rest of them, but then nor are we. We'll come on to Aston Villa towards the end of the show. I want to go back to the goal-scoring problem. Muani, who, according to Robert De Zerbi, he started well and then faded. And he then said this after the match: "I have to work with Kolo Muani. He's a big talent. I want to help him not only to win a game, but just for him to show what he's able to do on the pitch." And then he said he would take him out for breakfast, lunch and dinner in order to ram this home. Now, look, clearly, we've said this before, haven't we? Lots of managers have great faith in this guy. Have you seen anything to suggest that there's going to be some kind of extraordinary conversion? Can De Zerbi drag this out of him? Or are we just, is this just going to be time wasted? We've only got 4 matches left. You haven't got time to be nurturing and looking after and nursemaiding players. We've got to win matches.
I think we were sort of talking about him last week, Muani, as being one of the most pointless players in the squad. Nothing really has changed my mind about Muani since quite early on in the start of the season. I mean, when he first arrived, there was that goal against his old club, PSG. And I thought, might be onto something here. But since then...
I'm not giving you a V sign. I'm saying that he scored 2 goals against PSG.
I know. But anyway, as I was saying, yes, I've lost my train of thought. Perhaps De Zerbi fancies himself as a sort of Muani whisperer or something like that. To me, it can only be some sort of vanity on De Zerbi's part that he thinks he can get a tune out of this player, because I just don't see what use Muani is. Now, I would be very happy to be proved completely wrong.
If you look at his statistics before he came, he's a goal scorer. He can do it. The crucial thing is he can't do it for us. So I can see why De Zerbi's first game, he might have wanted to play him, to think, look, I can get inside this guy's head. I know how to turn him into the player he can be. You can see the logic of that, even though I disagree with it. But it didn't work. He was useless. And to do it when you've got so few games left, to do it for the second game and God forbid for the next game, that is where it becomes ridiculous.
We haven't got time to play around. Start Tel. Well, having said that, of course, with Solanke out, it may have no option but to play Muani somewhere up on the front line. Kev, let's have a little chat. We'll come on to the injuries in a minute, because this is something that's been plaguing us for a couple of seasons, really, but we'll come to that. I want to have a quick chat about Kinsky. Now, he made a brilliant save right at the death, which you were watching in my house, but I was in the garden because I could no longer stand it. But luckily, there was a tweet from Kuwait Spurs, which confirmed that the final whistle had gone and we'd won the match. So you could watch that save, safe in that knowledge. But his kicking's good. His handling's good. He makes good saves. I feel that it's his unflustered nature that is really the thing that is really changing the way the defenders are playing, because you can trust him with the ball at his feet. You can trust him. With Flappy, we are quite critical of Flappy on this podcast. It always feels, it feels panicky. Everything feels as though it could go anywhere. Anything could happen. So for the occasional brilliant save that he makes, you've got an all-round keeper in Kinsky. Do you think he's going to stay and in goal to the end of the season?
I suspect he will. Whether he stays next season, wherever we are, I don't know, because I think he's still seen as our second best goalkeeper, as a sort of, a reliable, decent, apart from that, the Atletico sort of aberration, a decent goalkeeper. But I suspect, particularly if we stay in the Premier League, then they'll get someone else. Vicario's almost certainly going to go. And I just don't get the impression that there's much faith in Kinsky. I agree entirely that he was a good keeper that just imbued some confidence into, he's got a mess in front of him. In all three of those matches, he's had a mess, both defensively and just generally. But he's been one of the few unmessy players, and we've really benefited from that, I think. So I personally would play him in the next 4 matches, yeah.
You could really see that in the Brighton game, couldn't you? The defence just seemed so much less panicky. I love Flappy as a nickname for him. The thing that really annoys me about Vicario is people who say, yeah, but he's a great shot stopper. He's a goalkeeper. It's his job. It's like, imagine if he couldn't stop shots. He'd be a goalkeeper who can't goalkeep. That's the basis of it. The idea that that's somehow, a great asset that he has is that he's a good shot stopper. It's the absolute number one basic requirement of any goalkeeper.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's rather like saying he's a footballer who can kick. Okay, sure.
Well,
Julie,
we could
let's
do
have
a few of those, actually.
We're short of about 12. Well, that actually kind of brings me on to a sort of a more, just digging down deeper into this issue of how the hell we're going to progress the play from back to front. Now, in my book, the one really high-class passer of the ball remaining is Kinsky. There was one ball that he played out to Xavi, where he just picked the ball up and he drop-kicked it to Xavi running clear on the right. And, of course, that actually was what led subsequently to his awful injury. But you cannot imagine Flappy getting anywhere near that. That just goes straight into touch. So Kinsky's a very good passer of the football. The remainder of our defenders aren't, although people allege that Porro can pass the ball. I've yet to see that. We haven't got much in the way of passing him into field, although I think Bentancur can do that. So it does beg the question, which I raised earlier, of how we set up against Villa and beyond to the end of the season. We've got to score a goal somewhere. We mustn't let anything in, but we've got to score it. And by the way, that was our first clean sheet since January. We're not all that good at that either. I don't know. This seems to me like the impossible conundrum for De Zerbi. What's your feeling?
Well, for a start, I think Polina should be on the team sheet every game from now on, because I think he's still a fantastic and good player. And he did a lot of good stuff early in the season. Bissouma, Bentancur. When you think about it, it's not actually so bad. It's just that, basically we don't have anyone up front and we don't have a creative player, which, basically we've just sort of gone back to how we were during the last days of Frank and the very short reign of Tudor, because, as we've said before, Solanke and our only really good flair player are now in the sanatorium again. So, yeah, how do we deal with that? I can't see why we could do any better than having Palhinha and Richarlison in the team, because at least they've got a bit of sort of pizzazz about them. I don't know where I'm going with this, actually. I feel absolutely hopeless about our situation, and maybe...
No one does. No one does, Julie. We're waiting for you to reach a conclusion, and nothing's happening. Actually,
Yeah, just leave me to dribble on quietly in the corner, and he even knows what he's talking about.
Well, here's a question. We've had Maddison on the bench, who's clearly not going to be playing. So he's there as cheerleader in chief. We saw Callum Olasese at Liverpool come on and give the most remarkably composed, mature performance. And he looked like a kid who can progress the ball and pass the ball and find a man. And yet, I've not seen it hide nor hair of him under Robert De Zerbi.
Yeah, nor have we heard of, what's his name, the Brazilian kid that we signed.
Sousa.
So, yeah, who I thought looked really good when he came on for us in his few appearances. And he was briefly mentioned, I think, in the post-match press conference by De Zerbi that he could go up to Villa Park. Well, he looks decent. No, I agree. I mean, I think it's a completely rational idea to think, here we are, we've got 4 games left. We need to stick to the pros who know what they're doing. There's no time for experimentation. But on the other hand, it's not like we're in a position to pick and choose who we play. And if there's kids who've got talent, this could be the making of them. They don't have to come, even if they come on for 20 minutes or something at the end, just to see what they're made of. I mean, it could, they could be the answer. I'm not giving a very coherent response, but that's because I don't think there is much that we can say that coheres. That's the problem.
It comes back to what I said a bit earlier, which is it looks as though De Zerbi's preference is for experience over you.
Yeah.
And of course, Kev, Mikey Moore, come on. He had a belting half against whoever the hell they played, Dundee, was it? Or Motherwell on Sunday. He looked absolutely brilliant. But there we are. Kev, we lost another player to an ACL. So we've, who have we lost? Audebert to an ACL. Maddison, Bentancur a little while ago. Kulu, we don't really know what the injury is and they're not prepared to tell us. But a knee injury of some sort. There's been a lot of criticism online of the medical department. It seems that the sort of the go-to for Gary of Harlow. The medical department, that's why we got all these injuries. What are you talking about? This on the pitch, that's where injuries occur, right? And as I mentioned in the monologue at the top, the fact you're putting out tired players is probably more to do with it, and therefore that falls at the feet of Langer and others who decided in January, for example, that we didn't need any more play. Although we had 12 fit men, that's enough. Why do we need more play? So, Hein, what's your take on this horrific injury situation? Which, after all, if we had half of these players back, I don't think we'd be in this shit.
No, but we'd still be bottom half. I think this is even our very best squad is a mid-table squad. I think, even with all of them fit, because it's a squad that's been, just allowed to sort of grow gradually, but without any real, impetus at all over the last few years. And so it's really difficult, isn't it, to just separate everything out. I have a loyalty towards, doctors. I have doctors in the family and I work with doctors every day. I cannot believe any of it really is about bad physio, bad medicine, bad nursing, whatever. Not least because it's not really the club that deals initially with, with the sort of medical interventions that they need. We've been incredibly unlucky. Apparently there's been 7 knee injuries since the beginning of last year. Not all ACL, but 7. Incredibly unlucky. But also, yes, we've been overplaying people. I've seen things on Twitter sort of blaming our weird newfangled pitch. But actually, a lot of the injuries have happened elsewhere. I think it's about a squad I think it's about bad luck and a squad that's just been pushed beyond its capabilities, really. So, I don't know. People want a nice, easy answer, don't they? One of the things that worries me is that the owners, and they may even believe it a bit, will say, if we go down, we only went down because of all those injuries. We were so unlucky, and that narrative could be sort of taken up, and that does bother me, because I mean, just as it bothers me if we stay up, and the narrative will then be, well, we just about got it right. Maybe we made a few mistakes, but we got it right. So there's a lot of work to do whatever happens, I think. But I don't think it's on the part of the sort of the club medical team at all.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, football fans, but by their nature, tend to look for a scapegoat, and it's an easy one, that for these sort of faceless medics causing all this trouble. But I mean, Julie, you dropped a bit of a report or something on our WhatsApp group about these sorts of injuries, and they seem to be more prevalent. Incidentally, to add to the guys I've just mentioned, we've also had two of our women Spurs players going down with the same injury. I think it's an injury that, for whatever reason, is coming to the fore, and I wonder if there are other factors beyond the ones we've already covered.
I think that there is a general tendency for an increase in ACL injuries owing to overuse and overplaying across the board. It's not only our club which has encountered it, but because of our pathetic squad depth, our players don't have the chance to be rested, like, say, players from Manchester City, for instance. If you have a look at Newcastle, they have had a similar number of injuries to us, but they have a slightly better squad depth than us. ACL injuries in women are more prevalent than I think in the men's game, because we're a different shape, basically. I won't go into it. It's a bit dull. But basically, Pep Guardiola has been going on about it for about 3, 4, maybe even 5 years now, the overplaying and overuse of players. They don't get any rest. It comes back. I mean, our club I think they're cheap and opportunistic, basically. They think they can get away with stuff, and they can't. I mean, the last summer's transfer sagas will sort of bear me out in that, trying to sign Morgan Gibbs-White, for instance, which was one of the most opportunistic failures I've ever encountered. Until there is a sensible policy of buying players, and until we have a decent squad depth, this is just going to repeat itself. I mean, if you look back at the Pochettino era, the sort of wonderful squad of 16, 17 was getting old. A lot of them were suffering from knee nap, stuff like that. Never really replaced players like Wanyama, for instance, not to mention Dembele. Things have just been allowed to drift as usual, and now it's come back to bite us in the arse so big time, because this season, not only is there the usual problem with squad depth, but we have just suffered random bad luck. Now, end of last season, we had random good luck. For instance, we won the silverware and escaped relegation because there were 3 crappier sides than us. And the opponent we played in the Europa League final was even crappier than ours. This is the other side of the coin. And it all comes back to the way that this club has been run. I mean, you have to go back to the start of this century, really. But I mean, just look at the Redknapp era. We could have achieved some wonderful things, but we didn't because that wasn't the priority, and it's just got worse and worse. And we've got our stadium, but what we now have, or what we're about not to have, is Premier League status, and it is all because of the club policy. End of rant.
Let me read a tweet to you, which, Kev, this kind of straddles injuries and another topic I want to raise. This, I don't know who tweeted this. It says, Madders got kicked as a national sport and done his knee. Bentoncourt injured with nasty tackle. Xavi kicked badly for a few games and now done his knee. Pros won't want to sign anymore if you let the ref empower teams to butcher them like that. So, we have a sort of a conspiracy theorist, one of our favourites, and it's the refs. It's the refs who are all conspiring to allow the opposition to cripple our players. Now, it brings me on to the next point, which is your mates at PGMOL decided that Rob Jones made a heinous error in the Sunderland match because he didn't send Brobby off. That's a fat lot of use now, isn't it? It really is. And the thing is that I don't buy into these stupid theories of refs conspiring, but I do buy into the theory that some refs are hopeless, and Rob Jones seems to be top of that list. But what use is a post hoc, decision like that? Who cares? It's, if anything, it's a bigger kick in the teeth. Probably should have been sent off twice.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been 1,000 things this season that have made me angry. That was one of the most angry I've been when I read that, because why are you doing that? What's the purpose in saying, yeah, you were right all along. Yeah, the ref was wrong. Brobby should have been sent off. Every single person who watched that, including Sunderland fans, I suspect, knew that was the case. And it's odd. It's like a sort of fake transparency, isn't it? It's a sort of, look, we're being honest. Look at us. It's sort of just horrible, disingenuous sort of nonsense, really. And they just think, don't do it. Don't do it. Do it privately, by all means, and have a word with him. Talk to him about the mistake he made. Think about the number of the similar mistakes that he does make, and certain other refs do make. But don't do this. Pretend we're being honest nonsense. It's so irritating.
And as I say, it rubs salt into the wound, because who knows if he'd gone off when he should have gone off, it's a match we might have won. Now, I've got a few tweets. We always like our tweets. Someone tweeted Xavi Simmons, this sadly, before his sad injury. Xavi Simmons has made Troy Deeney's BBC Premier League Team of the Week, which is, if it's Troy Deeney, I think that is damning with faint praise, don't you? He knows as much about football as my stupid cat. My clever cat knows more. Now then, someone said, Kev, this will interest you, coming from the medical side of things. The Lachman test is typically performed during acute knee evaluation following trauma involving pivoting, hyperextension, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people were saying online that this test was not performed by our medical team, and that they said to run it off. Now, I don't know whether anyone can say with any authority that test was or wasn't carried out. But did anyone actually see the medical people saying, "Go on, Xavi, run it off"? I don't think so. What were you watching that particular scenario?
Yeah, and he sort of got up and walked a few paces and sort of, who knows what was going on. But I mean, that sort of emergency, which I guess it was really, sort of emergency medical response. They know what they're doing. They do know what they're doing, and they're not going to willfully risk, damaging someone. I mean, obviously I was just thinking about Mourinho and the appalling way that he treated that the club doctor at Chelsea. There can be pressure, I think, to get players on. I don't think that's what happened.
I'm sure Xavi said, "Look, I'm going to run it off. I'll try and run it off," because he wants to play on, and he also wants to kind of pretend it wasn't as serious as he deep down knew it was. It's not much different to Gaza in the 91 Cup final, because he went down, the knee was gone, and he got up and he tried to play on. Because he's a player. He wants to play on. Here's another couple of tweets for you. Just had lunch with someone who has close ties with the TV companies and Premier League. We need Spurs official to survive as they bring in more commercial deals and make the Premier League brand stronger. I hope West Ham or Forest go down instead of them. We need this to happen. So that's what this guy was told at this lunch. That actually we're all pulling for Spurs because of the commercial opportunities. And here's the last one. Big name Spurs players now in a really awkward spot where they either fight to escape relegation and risk injury, which blocks their ability to leave in the summer like Xavi Simons, or just fake injury like Kudus and check out early and force a move. Now, I perhaps he's Kudus' mate or his brother or something. This sounds very definitive, doesn't it? All right, well, look, stupid tweets. There are so many. I just chose the first 5 that came up on my timeline. Let's do a bit of Room 101, shall we, before we talk about Aston Villa, because that's coming up. Hurrah. So, Stephen, what have you got for Room 101?
Can I cheat and have 2? I go to the games with 3 friends, and they all joke that it's become a thing that whenever people leave with about 5 minutes to go from the game, I start yelling at them, banned for life, banned for life. If I was dictator, I forget Room 101, if I was dictator for a day, the first law I would introduce is that anyone who leaves a match early, unless, there are certain circumstances, like if you're having a child born or something like that, then you're allowed to leave. But other than that, instant life ban. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, the Brighton game, for God's sake, there were people leaving. We were 1-0 up. We haven't won a game for God knows how long. And they start walking out. It's like, what are they for? What is the point? Anyway, that's the first one. But actually, worse than that, much worse than that, because and this would be life imprisonment rather than banning, is half and half scarves. I mean, I'm sorry, I hate to say anything decent about West Ham, but when I read a couple of months ago, I think, that they've banned half and half scarves from the stadium, I just thought, why can't we do that? Why can't we do it? They are an obscenity. They are appalling. They have, I see a half and half scarf, and I'm not a violent man, but I want to go up to the person and just rip it off them and scream, how dare you wear that thing? Anyway, there you go. Room 101 over.
Well, you make a compelling point about the scarf. I have to confess that I'm an early leaver, but that's because I'm claustrophobic and I can't. If I get caught in a crowd, I panic. So I just try and get away before that, and I'm not going to.
I will give you special dispensation.
Thank you. Bless you for that. Thank you.
From my dictatorship.
That's oh God, I feel so much better. Julie, what have you got for us?
3 little words. Just a knock. Any time that one of our players leaves early, leaves the game early, it's just a knock. And then it turns out, they're out, for 6 months, the whole bloody season, their knee is caved in, they're knackered for life. It's never just a knock. It was never just a knock with Kulusevski or Solanke. I think even when Xavi was taken off in what looked like a wheelchair, I think De Zerbi actually said, "Oh, just a knock." It never even just a knock. I hate as soon as somebody says just a knock. I know that that's it. Their season's over. We're not going to see them for another year.
Just a knock is in Room 101, and I think quite rightly so. Kev.
Yeah, I've got 2 words written down in front of me. The first one is knees, and the second one was God. So I'm just going to go for 2, if that's all right. Knees, because I'm getting no attention for the fact that my knee is hurting quite a lot at the moment. No Spurs fans, showing any kind of sympathy.
Oh, tell me about it. I can tell you about my torn meniscus. We can talk about it intimately later.
Okay, till. Yeah, so knees, but I've also put God down, and this is just because whoever controls our lives, someone is controlling our lives as Spurs fans malevolently, and I wonder sometimes, the sort of Greek gods on the top of Olympus, it feels a bit more like that. than a sort of a stern Old Testament God or whatever. It feels like there's a bunch of people up there deciding how to upset us to the maximum. And the way in which they do it is they give us something. They give us something positive. We have a win, and then West Ham win, and yeah, we're no better off. And we lose Simmons and we lose Solanke, and of course, and we know that they're doing it, and they know that we know they're doing it, but it doesn't stop them. So the gods on the top of Olympus.
Excellent. They're in there. Just a quick word on knees, Kev, because knees are my speciality, and we need to talk. Let's do a podcast, because I've got a metal knee. Had a knee replacement when I was 58, and I think let's do a full pod on that. I've got something for Room 101. It's what players who are in sides that lose a lot say, right, after matches. We learn from this. We know what we need to do. Why not just fucking do it? Just do it. You know what you need to do. Then there's another one. This is probably there's worse one. This. We go again. We go again. That is the live, laugh, love of professional football, as far as I'm concerned. Then what about this one? Credit to the boys. Then you got on another day. Who cares about another day? What about today? That's the day you need to worry about. But the worst of all is when they start every sentence with obviously. Well, obviously, we started well, and obviously, obviously, it's not obvious. If it's obvious, don't fucking say it. Just save it. So obviously is in Room 101. Now then, enough of this frivolity. We're playing Aston Villa at the weekend. They are going to be between Europa League semi-finals. Now, of course, Stephen, as we know, that's a tin pot waste of time competition. So they're not even going to be trying, are they? Who wants to win that shit? So they're in between those two semi-finals. They play us. Are they going to play a weakened team? Because we can only play a weakened team. What's your feeling about this match?
This is another one from Room 101. This pathetic attempt to find reasons why we might actually win games. Like the idea that Aston Villa are like us, that because they're in the middle of two important games, the one in the middle they'll write off. It doesn't work like that unless you're Tottenham.
No.
They're not going to go, oh, well, we better just rest easy in this game. Number one, they've got a brilliant manager. They've got brilliant players. They're fighting for something. Of course they're going to play a proper team, and they're going to, we'll have to, if we're going to get anything from it, we'll have to do it the hard way, not because they played a weakened team and can't be bothered.
There's a lot of this weird rationalising, isn't there? Chelsea, they're in the cup final, so one way or the other, they're not going to give us a proper game. Then we had, what if Leeds get to the cup final? We're playing them in whenever, and they're not going to play. No, they're just going to play, and they're going to try and beat us.
The thing is that we're a weakened animal. They'll just want to kill us. Every team we play from now on would just want to, put the boot in, get rid of us. It's footballer's nature. Like I said at the start of this pod, I just fully expect us to be in the Championship next season. It's the end. It's the absolute end. I've stopped kind of finding reasons to be hopeful. There is no hope. Sorry.
Okay. Kev, we're talking about these silly narratives that surround games. The one at the weekend, for example, the Wolves are down. Therefore, they're going to play with freedom and brilliance and flair for something they haven't shown all season, and they're going to beat us, or even more, they want to take us down with them. They want to take us down with them. That's their only ambition. And I just think this is, stop it, for fuck's sake. Look, anyway, I just wanted to make that point. Kev, Aston Villa, what's the narrative? Do we agree with this between two semis narrative?
No, I agree entirely. Maybe he's gonna rest, a couple of players, but he's gonna want to win, and the players are gonna want to win, and they're possibly even their second 11 is as good as our first at the moment. I think we might get a draw. I can't back that up with any evidence or any rational thought. But I think we might scrape a draw.
You know, you're the podcast's sole optimist, and if you're only going for a draw, Christ, I mean, we are in stuck. Okay, so Julie, let's just go for score lines, Julie.
Oh, I think, we'll lose by about 2 if they're feeling merciful. Otherwise, we'll just be slammed 4 by 4, 5. I don't know. I am not looking forward to this at all.
Sounds like a horror show. Stephen, have you got a scoreline for us?
I'm really sorry. 3-0.
Aye. 3-0. Kev?
2-2. Kinsky and Palhinha will score the 2 goals for us.
I like it. Kinsky, is this a Kinsky going up for the last corner?
Yeah, last
is that
minute.
Sort of thing?
Yeah.
I love it. That's the ultimate redemption, isn't it? I mean, God, keeping us up by scoring. I'm going for a 2-1 defeat, sadly, but I'm always wrong as well, so it doesn't really matter what I think. Now, that brings us to the end of the pod. Now, as is our tradition, Stephen, we give marks out of 10 to our debutant. So, Julie, what did you make of Stephen's performance? Marks out of 10?
Articulate, knowledgeable. Got to give him 10 out of 10. Has far too much to say for himself. Perfect.
Kev, what are you doing with
the thing that struck out for me was it was a great rant. I mean, there was a real rage in there, I think, and that's what we want. That's brilliant. So
another break with tradition, Stephen. What are you giving yourself? What mark would you give yourself there for your first nice one?
7 out of 10.
Okay. Well, look,
I interrupted too many times.
Yeah. Well, we can deal with that on a future pod. I would give you 10 out of 100, as I always do in these situations. As long as it gets a laugh from the guest, I'm going to keep doing it. All right. Well, look, thank you everybody. Thanks to Julie. Thanks to Kevin. Thanks to Stephen. We are on social media at Nice One Cyril Pod on Twitter /X. You can give us a follow on the podcast platform of your choice, or please subscribe. And you can also find us on our website, www.niceonecyrilpodcast.co.uk. That's it. We will be back next week with Villa reflections and no doubt lots more twaddle. Until then, come on you Spurs.